Looting, arson, and killings against Christians in Nigeria have reached record levels. More than 7,000 Christians were killed in 2025 alone amid ongoing attacks by extremist groups. This violence, deeply rooted in Nigeria's ethnic, religious, and political complexities, has brought grief to many communities in the northern and central regions, where Christians live alongside Muslims. In 2025, reports revealed an unprecedented wave of violence targeting Christians, with more than 7,000 killed in the first 8 months of the year. This staggering number represents an estimated 30 to 35 Christians losing their lives every day, many of them victims of attacks by Boko Haram, Fulani militants, and militants linked to the Islamic State West Africa Province ISWAP. The epicenter of the conflict is Nigeria's Middle Belt, particularly Benue State, which is notorious for the Yelawada massacre in which an estimated 280 Christians were killed, and other brutal attacks that have swept through farming communities. The fertile soil that sustains Nigeria's food supply has become a battlefield here, leaving families in mourning and farms abandoned. Authorities have been accused of tolerating at least 22 jihadist groups, some of which have reportedly allied themselves with global terror networks such as ISIS and ISIL. Since Boko Haram's insurgency began in 2009, the total death toll now stands at more than 185,000 civilians, including more than 125,000 Christians. The numbers of displaced people highlight a human tragedy. More than 12 million Christians have been uprooted from their homes and forced into internal displacement camps where basic needs and assistance are often lacking. Despite these grave losses, those who remain in villages often do so out of a determination to protect their ancestral lands, continuing to resist violence through agriculture and local resistance. A complex conflict across religious boundaries. Although Christianity has been disproportionately affected, the violence transcends a simple religious narrative. The religious identity of the victims sometimes masks the broader ethnic, political, and economic grievances that fuel these conflicts. Reports argue that significant violence affects liberal Muslim communities as well as others caught up in the conflict. Some researchers emphasize that the multifaceted nature of the conflict defies a single explanation, citing that many attacks stem not only from religious fanaticism but also from competition over land rights, resources, and political control. The involvement of predominantly Muslim Fulani herders has fueled a pastoralist-farmer conflict on top of religious identities. This adds layers of tension between settled farmers and nomadic cattle herders, leading to local violence that often escalates into communal massacres. Understanding the complex dynamics requires closer examination beyond the broad accusations of such complexities. International reactions, particularly from the United States, have led some American politicians to openly criticize Nigeria for systematically persecuting Christians and call for stronger interventions. These claims reflect concerns that Nigerian Christians face an existential threat. In contrast, the Nigerian leadership, led by President Bola Tinubu, has rejected these portrayals, arguing that they exaggerate or misrepresent basic realities. The Nigerian government has maintained that efforts to foster national unity and religious tolerance continue despite security challenges. There are also concerns that external narratives could undermine Nigeria's sovereignty and fuel sectarian divisions. This balancing act remains active as Nigeria seeks international support while asserting control over its domestic affairs. Subject matter experts warn against labeling the situation as genocide, highlighting the need for precise terminology that takes into account the perpetrators' intent in the context of the violence. Such caution aims to avoid exacerbating tensions that may arise from intimidating designations that are not fully consistent with international legal definitions or the complex realities of the situation. The sheer number of displaced people poses dramatic humanitarian challenges. Millions of displaced Christians live in camps with limited access to food, healthcare, and shelter. In addition to the killings, many communities are being culturally erased as attacks targeting churches, homes, and farms continue. The destruction of thousands of churches and the seizure of vast tracts of land reflect efforts to systematically eliminate the Christian presence in the affected areas. families torn apart by violence or suffering psychological trauma and economic deprivation. Women and children are particularly vulnerable, and abduction, forced conversion and exploitation are widespread. Those sheltering in internally displaced people camps often face chronic underfunding, neglect by authorities and persistent insecurity. The crisis in Nigeria underscores the urgent need for integrated responses that address security, humanitarian assistance, socioeconomic development and reconciliation. Simple narratives or geopolitical positions will deepen divisions and obscure the root causes. Real progress requires sustained dialogue, strengthened governance, and international solidarity that respects Nigeria's sovereignty while providing meaningful support to vulnerable communities. Efforts to protect Christians must be part of broader initiatives to protect all Nigerians from violence, including liberal Muslims and other minorities, and to promote peaceful coexistence and equitable sharing of resources.
In Nigeria,
building community resilience, ensuring timely humanitarian assistance, and promoting justice for perpetrators can contribute to long-term stability. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a new threat to target Nigeria if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians. In a video released on Truth Social, he vowed to do things for Nigeria that Nigeria will be happy about, and to get down to burning those disgraced guns now. For months, campaigners and politicians in Washington have accused Islamic extremists of systematically targeting Christians in Nigeria. Referring to the Boko Haram group, he said, "They have killed more than 100,000 people and burned down 18,000 mosques since 2009. Similar figures have been circulating on social media. The government in Abuja has dismissed the claims as a misrepresentation of reality. It has not denied that deadly violence has taken place in the country. But officials have said that terrorists are targeting everyone who rejects their murderous ideology, Muslims, Christians and non-believers alike." Other groups that monitor political violence in Nigeria say the number of Christians killed is far lower, and that the majority of victims of jihadist groups are Muslims. While Christians have been attacked as part of a broader strategy to create terror, claims that Christians are being deliberately targeted cannot be justified, said Nigerian security analyst Christian Ani. Nigeria is facing various security crises across the country, not just violence by jihadist groups, which have different causes and should not be confused, he said. The country's 220 million people are roughly split between followers of both religions, with the majority of attacks taking place in the north, where most of the attacks take place, being Muslim. In a Truth Social post last Friday, Trump cited 3,100 Christians as having been killed. A White House official said he was referring to Open Doors' report on the 12-month death toll from October 2023. Open Doors is a charity that researches persecution of Christians around the world. While 3,100 Christians died, 2,320 Muslims were also killed in the 12-month period, its report said. Open Doors also included what it calls Fulani terror groups among the perpetrators, saying they were responsible for a third of the Christians killed in a region of central Nigeria known as the Middle Belt during the 12-month period. What we are seeing now is that Christians are still being targeted, but some Muslims are being targeted by Fulani militants, said Franz Wehrmann, a senior research fellow at Open Doors. Analysts say there have been a number of violent attacks on mosques and Muslim communities in the northwest of the country. One could say that this is part of a broader insecurity. He said, "The fact that the identities of the people carrying out these attacks against Muslims are Muslim is the reason why it is not considered to have a religious dimension.